Hey troops, welcome to Beyond The Frontline with me, Ryan Forrest, and guest today, the one and only James Williams. We've had you on our channel before, and hey, thanks for coming back on, James.
Pleasure, Ryan. Pleasure.
Nice. Right, so, I mean, everyone knows you as Commando on the Frontline Star, myself included. That's why I joined the military from watching that show.
I apologise.
I think you've got about 50,000 apologies to issue. How are you doing anyway, mate? You all right?
Yeah, we're all good, mate. All good.
Nice. So I think, me and you've been talking a lot off screen anyway. We've become what I would consider as friends and stuff. I wanted to, for the benefit of the viewer, because we have so many questions on social media. I see your TikTokers flying with different questions, and I guess I wanted to use this as like an opportunity to answer some of those questions. Loads of people want to know what life was like before the Royal Marines, why the Royal Marines, but that can be for later. I want to know, how did you end up getting into the Royal Marines anyway? What was life like for you?
Yeah, you know what, Ryan? It's a question that gets asked a hell of a lot. In the context, the biggest context it gets asked in is how do you become fit for the Marines? That's the biggest question I get from a lot of young lads today.
Yeah, I see loads of questions being asked, especially on TikTok and stuff like that, about
how should I
be training? It wasn't a thing for us when we were young, really.
No, well, you're 36, Ryan, yeah?
Yeah.
So you're late 80s kid. I'm an early 80s kid. I'm 81. I played basketball county level and also national level. I was a point guard. I was adamant I was going to become an NBA star. Absolutely adamant.
Yeah.
Soon dawned on me that I was going to end up being 5'10", not American. So that dream had to go on the back burner. But essentially, playing basketball for 12 hours a day, I was basically doing a bleep test for 12 hours a day, running up and down that court, and I did not stop. So when you go into Marine training, I didn't find that I had to kind of focus on the fitness as much because of my childhood. We were active, and when I get asked a lot of questions by a lot of young lads on the TikTok app, especially, how do I get fit? It's quite obvious that they're a generation now that is glued to TikTok. How do I get fit for the Marines? Stop watching me on TikTok. How about that for a start?
Yeah, so it's like, funny you should mention that. So like, what you're saying is, how did you get fit for the Marines? Life. Being born in the 80s got me fit for the Marines.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I didn't have a training plan to get in the Corps. I was fit already. Running 3 miles wasn't a hardship. I didn't have to train for that.
If I'm honest, I cuffed for Fizz. If I was to look back at it, I cuffed it.
Really?
Yeah, I cuffed it. I really did cuff it. But as a kid, I grew up out on my bike, climbing trees, making fires, getting in trouble, running from the police, running from the gypsies, always wanted to fight you. If you didn't get away from the gypsies, you ended up fighting them. So you just kind of grew up a little bit tougher. I'm not saying that kids today don't grow up tough. There's a lot of lads out there that are having a hard time, but it just seemed to be more across the board back that time that, the thing to do, because we didn't have social media, because we didn't have phones, was go out and cause mischief, which essentially made you fit.
Yeah, it was everyone, and it was like a generalized thing. Wanted everyone just played out, did the thing. I understand.
My mum was saying to me the other day, she said, you'd go out at 7 a.m. and I wouldn't see you until 7 p.m.
until the street lights came on.
unless you came back at like midday for a glass of water, and then you'd be gone. Could you imagine that today?
I know. I think a lot of people are scared to let the kids out. You know what I mean? Like, generally scared.
You imagine as a parent, you don't know where your kids are for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I couldn't. I don't think I would let that happen with my kids. I couldn't. Definitely not what I was getting up to. No way. So where's home for you? Where were you brought up?
Down in Kent, down in the southeast.
Southeast Kent.
Yeah, my father left the house when I was 5 years old, so I became the man of the house. I guess that was the start of becoming a bit tougher, just having to man up and stand up. For me personally, at the age of 5, my younger brother very much looked up to me for guidance. I remember the day when my dad actually left. I remember when my dad said he wasn't going to be around as much because he was leaving, took us in the garden and said, I'm not going to be around as much. explaining to us why he wasn't going to be around as much, not in so much detail, but just letting us know he wasn't going to be there. Once he'd finished saying what he was saying, I remember my brother kind of looked to me to see what my reaction was. And I was like, pretty chilled out about it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And from that day, I stepped up and my brother kind of followed me, and it was me, my mum and my brother. But me being the eldest one, I, stepped up to the plate as the man of the house at 5 years old. And I think that's where, if I was to analyse it and go back, I think that's where the resilience started to come in, that resilience that took me through the later stages, especially commando training and then going on to UKSF, the operations, etc.
And you were in SRR, which is like, I haven't been in UK Special Forces. I've read a lot on it. And, when you're in the Marines, you get to know little bits about what they get up to and stuff. How I kind of understood SRR is they're very much like, you've got to be very much a good individual. You've got to you've got to rely on yourself an awful lot, is from what I've made from it. Do you think that self-reliance is something that has came from that moment as a child? Like being able to rely on you first and foremost to get the job done type thing?
Yeah, but I think that was also pertinent for me personally in Royal Marine training. I don't know what it was like for you, I didn't look to anyone in recruit training
to get you through.
Royal Marines. Can you carry me through this? I very much didn't want to carry anyone else through either.
I know what you mean.
I guess in a way I was Jack. I was like, I'm on my path. I'm going to make it. Whether you make it or not, that's up to you. But I'm not going to carry.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, the Corps, isn't it? Because most of the troops that pass out, you're looking at a handful of lads effectively as originals, quite literally. I know you were original, right?
I was an original, yeah. Mate, I didn't want to spend no more than 32 weeks in that place.
and did you notice that the lads at the end weren't necessarily the lads that you thought would be there?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Especially, obviously, there was young George Sparks, 17-year-old lad,
Yeah, I remember.
Very soft in his nature, very soft in his, not the strongest of lads, not the most athletic of lads, but just had the heart of a lion.
Just got through it.
Just like, no, I'd never seen heart like it. Never seen heart like it. But, we can chat about him later down the road.
I'm guessing we will be coming on to topics about lads from that show, actually. That's a good point. There's a lot of characters that we can get into, him being one of them. I think so. I didn't know that about you, actually, about your dad leaving at 5. I mean, I'm just trying to picture when I was 5. The world is all sunshine and rainbows, isn't it, at the time? And that, I'm just trying to think about how that would make me feel. I'm guessing for me that would be like a crossroads of make or break, even at that age. And your reaction told me a lot about what made you become a good Royal Marine and pass an SF selection. The fact that you kind of instantly, you were quite stoic with your response of your dad literally telling you he's not going to be around much, and your brother looking at you for guidance. You instantly went, yeah, cheers. It's like, let's crack on. We've got a job to do.
Crack on.
That's amazing, man.
It was very much that crack on attitude, which would like come later down the line with, in a contact on a Herrick in Afghanistan, in a Sangin Valley, running out of ammunition, completely penned in from 3 sides. Let's just crack on.
Was that the hardest thing about your childhood, do you think? Or the hardest part? Or what, like that dynamic of you having to step up type thing? Did you feel that as a hardship, or did you feel that as like, this is just the way it is now?
Do you know what? When I talk about it to people, which is not that often, I say, do you know what? In a way, I'm very grateful in a way for that happening, because it made me the person that I ended up being. It made me, I might not have got through Royal Marine training as well as I did. I probably would have gone on to become a SF soldier, had I not been hardened up in those years.
Can you see how that would break some people, though?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right. Had that been your brother, would he have took it in a similar way, or did he need that support mechanism in you?
My brother's a tough lad. He didn't go down the route I did. He ended up becoming a carpenter, but he's a resilient lad in himself. But I think he's got that resilience from growing up with me. Me and my brother, we grew up in an area which, it wasn't a rough area, but around the area it was full of a lot of travellers, gypsies. So we grew up either running from them, or if we couldn't get away from them, fighting them. My brother grew up in that same environment as well. There was usual nuisance fellas around, young lads. I mean, our house got robbed 3 times. The lads that robbed my house, when it was me, my mum and my brother, would then, in the winter, would throw snowballs at my mum as she was walking us to the bus stop because the car had broken down where she had no money for a decent car. She used to drive around in a little orange rusty W Reg Fiesta, which 9 times out of 10, well, half the time, wouldn't start on the drive, especially in the cold. So then she'd say, we're walking to the bus stop, and you're walking up to the bus stop, and the lads that have robbed the house, mocking my mum, and that added resilience to me, added a toughness to me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to piece it together, because again, like using other examples of people, like make or break type thing. I can tell the way you explain it is you've getting something positive out of those negative situations. So it seems like
that is a quality, Ryan. Sorry for butting in. That's a quality that is very much comes through, especially in the bootneck world, wouldn't you say? Like,
I
getting
agree.
the positive out of the negative.
That's one of my favourite sayings as well. Anyone who knows me from a working capacity, especially I ran a military college for a while, and that was my saying. That was like the mantra. You can't get anything positive from a negative. So I really hit it home. Some of these young kids are really like negative with everything, and I'm like, well, nothing's going to come from that. And I've just, you kind of epitomise the same type of mentality which all of my friends in the Corps have. All of them, they're all very positive. Even the ones who drip, they're still positive. We're still going to be able to rely on them to get the job done, because, you do need that. You do need that negativity, kind of like it festers. It's like a virus, isn't it? Especially in a team dynamic.
Yeah, there's going to be, as you know yourself, in the Corps, there's going to be a lot of negativity you come across. Your junior command course, that for me was a prime example of that, and how being in those negative situations of being in Pork Chop Wood on Senny Bridge, rain hammering down, absolutely hammering down, and lads are just like, they're just having banter, and they're just having a laugh, and it's a miserable setting. It's miserable.
Yeah, because it's shit, isn't it? Pork Chop Wood, for anyone watching, is like, it could be sunny outside. It's going to be 5-10 degrees colder in this wood, and the shell scrapes are always full of water as well.
Even contacts in Afghanistan. I remember lads taking a round through the chest in a doorway. Got a sucking chest wound.
Bang.
And and you're carrying out your job. You're still doing the CASEVAC. You're going through those irrigation ditches. You're fire manoeuvring back, getting that casualty out of there towards the Chinook that's landed at the back.
Yeah.
And lads are still having banter. They're still making that super negative into a positive.
Like
even the stories. Sorry, even the stories of like a lad has his legs blown off, and like he's being looked after by one of the other lads, and then they'll come up with a comment like, "At least you ain't got to do leg day now."
that is people watching this who are not in the military won't realize that is the. I think that's a military thing. Never mind just the Corps. I think that's a military thing. Like, come on, Throbber. Like, we've all had our legs blown off before. Like that type of thing.
At least you ain't got to worry about squats now, mate.
Yeah, I think people won't understand that, but you've got to, like, I understand you got to have that, haven't you, really? And I think a lot of the lads that I kind of served with, they all had a backstory. Yeah. Every one of them got some good reason that pulled them towards the Corps. And it's not too dissimilar from you. Your story, bit of a difficult upbringing, situations kind of led to you leading into the Royal Marines, and not just going to the Marines, being a good Marine. Certain elements of your character were formed at 5 years old through hardships. Yeah. I mean, what was the hardest thing for you growing up? Or did that not even jump into your realm of thinking? Like, this is tough at the time?
Do you know what? Asking that question, Ryan, that's just kind of highlighted to me that there was nothing. I didn't think anything there was particularly tough growing up. But again, people say to me, how did you get through Marine training? It's one of the biggest questions I get, especially on TikTok when I do my lives. And I just said, I didn't look at anything as hard. Yeah, listen, I'm hanging out. This is painful. This isn't comfortable. But am I going to let it get to me? No, I'm going to have a laugh about it. I'm going to smile. When I lay my head down at night, I'm just going to smile and I'm going to think tomorrow's a new day. And, that's what I used to do. There was one clip that I saw on TikTok from one of Chris Tyrrell's from the film. And I think we just done the mud run. And, we're all completely caked in mud. And this was something that stood out to me. I didn't know that I did this, and looking at it now, I saw it. Every head was like this. Terry John, completely caked in mud.
Yeah, he had a
hard
time, didn't he, doing that?
I think there's another young lad, Jordan Sparks, completely caked in mud. Everyone's head was down. Chris Tyrrell's camera came to me. Head was up. I didn't do that intentionally, but
it was just you.
Yeah, the head was up. This isn't hard. This isn't hard.
Did you learn that from anyone, that kind of stoicness? Did you have any family in the military or anything like that, or anything relatable?
Well, my grandfather was a lieutenant colonel in the cavalry regiment. Tanks. Really? Yeah. He went in as a private. Yeah, he went in as a private and came out a lieutenant colonel, which I think is as far as you can go. So he's gone through private, corporal, sergeant major. He's got commission. He's gone through captain, major, lieutenant colonel.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, he was. So
he's bottomed out the non-commissioned side. He's commissioned. He's bottomed out that as well.
Yeah.
That is pretty. That right. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So you have got a bit of family lineage that's done well in the military before you.
So he was one of two brothers. They lived in Barnet, North London.
Mm-hmm.
And their father was a Welsh stoic, Welsh guy.
Yeah.
For some reason, he hated the English, but he was living in Barnet. That doesn't make sense to me.
For some reason, yeah.
It's not even as if you're living in Hereford or, you've actually gone to where all the Cockneys are. He's
went across enemy lines. He's right in a no man's land.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask my dad why his grandfather, this staunch Welsh guy, was living in Barnet. I'll try and find that out. However, my granddad said he wanted to join the English Army when he was 16.
Mm.
And his dad said, you join the English Army, you never step foot in this house again.
Wow.
And my granddad went, all right then. And he went and joined the English Army.
He never stepped foot in the house again.
He didn't see his dad again until his dad was on his deathbed in hospital.
Wow, that's different. Yeah. Blokes were different then, weren't they?
Yeah. He didn't see his dad until his brother phoned him up years down the line. You're talking years down the line.
That's insane, man.
And said my granddad's name was Bill. Went, Bill, your father's dying. Can you come and say goodbye to him on his deathbed? And he went and he obviously said his goodbyes.
That's insane.
You had two brothers. You had my granddad that excelled in the military, really excelled. The only thing my granddad didn't have, which when I used to talk to him when he was alive, he didn't have a conflict. The things that you wish for, the things that you wish for.
Like me then.
It's a horrible thing to wish for. I mean, I've done Afghans and I can't stand conflict. I can't stand war. I can't stand what's going on the news at the moment. It drives me nuts with the
You've
whole
stepped
Russia.
Across the line, haven't you? You've done it.
Whereas, for anyone in the military, what they train for is they train for that to put those skills into test.
100%.
So he didn't have a conflict. I mean, he joined after World War II, and then he must have passed. He passed away. I wasn't even in the military, so he didn't even see me join the military.
Wow! So he didn't even know none of that story from 2005.
Yeah, he passed away. Obviously, as a retired lieutenant colonel somewhere in the 90s. And then his brother stayed in Barnet, stayed in the house, and his brother apparently ended up becoming quite a prominent London villain, London gangster.
Really?
Used to drive around.
So the complete opposite side of things.
Yeah, but completely excelled in that side. Like went to the highest rank as a London villain.
Have you ever thought about this? Because I've looked at lads, especially in the Corps. I mean, the Corps has I think still the highest percentage of lads going in as a junior rank who've got degrees. They're all like a lot of lads qualify to be officers and they choose to go junior rank.
Oh, that's one of the
Very
biggest
smart.
questions, Ryan, isn't it? What
Yeah.
do I do? Do I become an officer, or do I
Well,
join as an OR?
For Marines, it is, like there's a lot of lads are actually qualified for it. Like all of my cohort, my good mates, had degrees and, good grades. Excuse me. And I think that intellect kind of shows through. And a lot of the lads, I think, wow, if you didn't come into the Marines, you'd have been a good, like, career criminal, It's like
Oh yeah,
bad lads make good soldiers is such a true saying, I think.
yeah.
And
To tell you the truth,
I was a bad lad to a degree. I'm sure you've getting in your fair share of bother growing up,
and afterwards.
And Hey, stay tuned, guys. We're gonna be getting into all of that stuff. I'd imagine in a few episodes' time. In fact, I know one or two good stories from you. So yeah.
But so my granddad was, he went through the ranks and he made lieutenant colonel. He ended up getting an MBE from the Queen.
Wow.
There's a picture I've seen of him, sat a couple of seats away from the Queen at the time, Queen Elizabeth II, getting his MBE, and then his boy, my dad, he said to him when he was younger, he said, "I want to go and become a Marine," and my granddad said, "You've got a young boy," which was me. He said, "You're not going to join the military." He was, I don't know. I mean, he was against it. I don't know why. So my dad said, "Okay, I'm going to become a policeman." And my dad did 40 years in the police force. But what he did was he specialised as, obviously he did his time on the beat.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he specialised as firearms, so equivalent of SO19 today, SWAT team.
Really?
Yeah, he used to do a lot of the raids on the gypsy camps.
So them guys are like, for people watching, like an
This
SF.
is back in the 80s. This is back in the 80s,
Like they're like top end of the guys with weapon systems in the police, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, he used to tell me a lot of stories of him because I got to know my dad from around the age of 18, when I got back in touch with him and we started talking again. He tells me the stories of, doing the raids on the gypsy camps, kicking in the doors, because with the old Remington shotguns and things like that.
Wow.
And
so
then,
just getting stuck straight in then, basically.
And then he was a source handler, so a chiz handler, covert.
Yes.
Yeah. He was
right. Okay.
He was a chiz handler, and he was a surveillance operator.
So it's in the family. It has to be.
He was actually a surveillance instructor. He taught surveillance. He taught counter surveillance, anti-surveillance.
Did he teach you that stuff? Did he?
No, he didn't. But you know what? It's funny, isn't it? How I then go and join a regiment in the military which specialises in surveillance.
If you want to talk about surveillance, like the best in the British military, SRR.
Yeah.
Like that's as far as you're going to go, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's it. That's really so. You've just explained a few things that I was thinking before the show. It's like, you're questioning stuff, wondering this, and that all makes a lot of sense now. So for people wondering how James Williams ended up, on a building site to then joining the Royal Marines, smashing that, but being the cheerful guy as well, like the guy is he going to make it to the end? Well, actually, he was an original. Smashed it. Then went UKSF. No one knew where you'd went off social media, off the show, pretty much just like gone effectively, because in SF you are, aren't you? You're just not on the map.
Well, I remember Chris Tyrrell came to me probably around 2013, 2014. He said, James, ITV would like to do a Wear a 924 troop now. I said, Chris, you got no hope of getting me, mate, because I was a serving SRR soldier.
Deep involved in it.
I said, you can forget it, mate. There is no way it's happening.
Nah, not a chance, huh? I mean, I'm looking forward to speaking about that in a few shows' times, to be fair, about your whole journey into SF and stuff, because that's just a different world. So many unanswered questions that people want to know about that realm, because effectively on social media, it's just not spoken about, and what is spoken about is not real good information, because no one speaks of it. It's a hidden entity, really, still, isn't it? Like SAS, Navy SEALs, SBS, it's been blown out of the water, really, hasn't it?
There's a lot of lads that are making up their own kind of interpretation of it. You look at some of those comments on TikTok, etc.
Some of them are funny.
Yeah. Oh, who's better, SPS or SAS? Oh, yeah. Well, it's definitely these guys because of X, Y, Z. No, it's definitely these guys because of X, Y, Z. And you're like, oh, mate.
I heard someone. I don't know if it was on your comment section or mine, but they basically had a ranking system, and I can't remember where SAS and SBS came, but I remember the Gurkhas coming above both of them from someone. It just goes to show the misinformation out there. What's that? There's a lot of misinformation out there on SRR as well. So I think,
sorry, Ryan, the biggest bit of misinformation which I see a lot. SRR are not tier 1, SRR are support. And I don't comment. I don't pass comment. I don't say anything. I let them get on with it. But inside, I'm thinking, from all my time in SRR, I never, ever, ever remember supporting anyone other than the intelligence services.
Which is,
and that was because I was carrying out the work to get the intelligence for them.
Which is stuff people don't even know half of it, do they? With regard to that world. That's an insane world.
And they don't have to know it, do they? They don't have to know it.
Yeah, I agree. So tough upbringing. Although you didn't feel it was, to the onlooker, I think people would go, I think that's pretty tough. I think that's a hard one to swallow. You know, not really seeing your dad from the age of 5 to 18. I think you're a positive person, so obviously it doesn't affect you on that level. I think the effects that it has had on you has clearly been positive enough to get you through some bloody hard stuff, you know?
Absolutely. But, Ryan, what you said there, a lot of people would say, that was tough. The first thing that comes to mind is Sergeant Quinn of 924 Troops sat on a balcony going, should we go and get the Padre? Do you want to go and see the Padre on that one?
Yeah. He'll fix it if you want to go see him for a hot wet.
If you want, we can go and see the Padre on that one. Man up.
Do you still use that mentality going forward in Civvy Street? Because I think Civvy Street, coming out to Civvy Street from the military, I think it's difficult for most people, and if if you haven't got a tough mentality, it'll eat you up, this Civvy Street stuff,
Mate, Civvy Street is a constant Camp 1 for me, mate. It's a constant Camp 1 of SRR selection. It's tough. And to tell you the truth, Ryan, one thing that occurs to me a lot, which I get a little bit ashamed of, is I don't think I've got that mental resilience, but I had as a young bootnik and also as an SF soldier. I haven't got that anymore, and
it's fluid though, isn't it?
I'm desperate to get it back. I feel like I let myself down out here, and it gripes on me. It really gripes on me.
I know what you mean with that. I've put this down to people talk about motivation. Motivation's fluid. It's something that you might have, but don't expect to have it later on. Even people talk to me, and I see other bootnecks thinking, "Hang on, how are you in that state?" And you've got to be this way, so regimented and disciplined in the military, and then when you're out, you're the complete opposite of that. How? And I keep saying it's situational. Motivation is fluid. Determination is fluid, and it all depends on the environment you're in. I think environments create different classes of people, and you can adopt certain attitudes. I think the military primes you and allows you to be disciplined, allows you to be motivated. You're constantly on the go. You're going to get found out instantly, and the consequences are severe in many cases in the military. Whereas in Civvy Street, doesn't matter. Tomorrow's another day type mentality. I think it's easier to let yourself go in Civvy Street. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
You just haven't got, you just haven't got the environment. You haven't got the situation. You haven't got the purpose, the need to be that person that you was. And it's tough,
Going through for you to get through to SRR from the core, you got to have a drive. You got to have a laser focus, and the environment allows you to have that. Whereas what you're going to have laser focus for and a big drive for in Civvy Street, really, do you even need it? Do you know what I
And
mean?
also, well, Ryan, and also the people that are around you. It's like I mean, I noticed it the other day. I go to a gym, which is a good gym. It suits me. Yeah, it really does suit me. You know, I can do my Olympic weightlifting now. I can chuck chalk on the floor. I can drop weights. It's got the tire. It's got the sledgehammer. You know, I can do muscle ups in there. I can do all the stuff I can't do in like a regular gym. However, what it hasn't got is it hasn't got a level of person training in there, a level of athlete for me to compete against. And then I went to another gym a little while ago because I started doing one-to-one boxing lessons with a boxing trainer. And that gym there is a strongman gym. And when I was walking through it, it's just got a different caliber of person in there. And I felt the need to compete. I felt the need to, you know, not directly compete, but, you know, train harder because I'm surrounded by these people. And that's the thing that the core does, isn't it? And also SF selection. You're competing, even if you're not competing. You're subliminally competing with these people.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you said the same thing as what I said. Environment creates the Marines allow for the environment to be disciplined, to have that laser focus, to pursue a goal.
Well, when I you know, got my PT superior, my red vest, week 12 for gym pass out, I was a PT superior. When I got that, that's when I really noticed I'm competing now. They're recognizing me as the fittest. And then all of a sudden I'm becoming the 2IC behind my my section commander, essentially Jim Glanfield. He's putting me to lead the section. They're putting me out to lead the march, calling the timing. And now all of a sudden you want to keep that. So you want to keep that. You want to keep that status. And as a result, you now have to compete. Yeah.
Wow. So I think that's really interesting, actually. The Royal Marines, I think. So just to kind of close things up for people watching, I think that's a perfect point to kind of halt on and talk about on the next show. Royal Marines training, the whole thing, because my experience to yours, although we went through the same thing, yours is an experience with Commando on the front line. What a story that is, and the cult that's behind it. I can't wait to get into that episode, and I hope we manage to get some of your cult following from TikTok on there, because I know for a fact that's going to be. I think the whole Royal Marines Commando on the front line episode is going to be an interesting one.
Can I ask, Ryan, what year did you become a bootneck? What year did you go through training? I know you tried before, didn't you? But what year did you go through training successfully and get your green lid?
I successfully got my green lid through training in 2012, and I passed out as a Royal Marine in February 13.
Okay.
And I got through as an original with that cohort.
So I was 2006 and passed out in the spring of 2007.
Yeah. So good 6 years I passed out after that. Yeah, because it was 7 years before I joined the first time, and training was different on both occasions, actually. Yeah, it was.
When was the first time?
2005 with 903 Troop.
Can I ask? I mean, just for my own awareness, because I obviously did the training the first time around, the first time you did, just after. What was the difference between the training from 2006, 2005, 2006 up to the time when you actually got your green lid? Was it easier, harder? Was it?
I found both hard in different ways. I was like 15 and 11 months or something when I went through the first training.
Well, that's going to be the first hurdle, isn't it?
That in itself was a hurdle. Fizz, I took for granted how much. At 16, nothing could. I couldn't be thrashed. I was unthrashable. Going through the second time, I definitely could, and it was harder physically, but I had more mental robustness from the hardships of Civvy Street at the time. So it was harder, but I found it easier the second time in that regard. But the sheer physical hardships of the first course, it was more. Not violent in a sense, but it was more of a violent period of training. The staff were all fresh from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, that's going to count for something. That's going to count for something, mate.
And the obvious issues that come with war that we didn't know that much at the time, that I look back and go, wow, all of them were suffering. all of them, because they used to
Well,
get effed off from Afghan or wherever.
yeah.
Instead of
Oh, mate.
getting medically
Short fuse.
discharged, they
Yeah.
just got pumped into training, like, oh, have a
Yeah.
break in a recruit troop. We were
Yep.
getting trained off lads who had issues, and it was.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it was quite a scary environment. I don't know if it was because I was a kid or what, but it was the second time around. I felt a bit more protected in training. Actually, it was harder in. The only sense it was harder in was seemed like it was a lot more to learn. There was more kit, there was more stuff to learn at that point. I'm guessing that was what they'd learned in Afghanistan. I can only put it down to that. I remember being more fatigued in training mentally the second time.
And do you know what? Those that training team that took you through when you was, just coming on for 16 the first time, they would have done Afghanistan. They would have done the beginning tours.
Yeah.
And they were the kinetic, rough tours.
Yeah.
Because as Afghanistan went on, it became, I'm not saying it's not rough. I would have rather have done the Afghans I did, the kinetic ones, rather than the IED dodging ones, which came later down the line. But, you imagine having those battle-hardened junior commanders and sergeants, like, then coming back, feeling the way they did, going through what they did, and now they're put on a training team, which is seen as, it's not a great draft for them, especially after the Afghans.
Yeah, it was quite brutal in that regard.
I should imagine there was a lot of frustration being taken out on you guys.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, I don't want to say a wrongdoing, but it wouldn't have been allowed in the second time around. So it was difficult. And it's strange. This is where we actually link. We can talk about this in the next episode. Actually, before I left commando training, we got a new boss, Orlando Rogers.
Yeah,
and then obviously I believe he was your boss. So
yeah.
So that's I think we'll finish it on that note. Actually, let's get into that in the next one.
Otherwise, we'll end up in Eric's and all sorts.
For reference, for anyone watching this, don't worry. This is going to be a regular thing with me and James, so I might as well give you insight into this now. We're going to go through James's story, which, hey, that could take one episode. It could take 100 episodes. But either way, we're going to plow through it, probably with daily releases. After that, we're going to be getting guests on the show. James is a co-host to this, Beyond the Frontline. So he is as part of the channel of me as I am, if not more, in many ways. So he's a guest for this, but you're a host for the rest of the time on this show. So look forward to that, troops.
All good.
Yeah, happy days, James. I'll speak to you very soon, mate. Thanks for coming on to your show.
No problem, mate. Catch up with you soon. Catch you later, mate.
Easy, mate.
Bye-bye.